Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back to the Harmonious Party. For those of you listening, you're joining mid-party here. We're having a good time before recording. I'm excited to jump on today. We're going to talk about leadership and leading like Lasso. And I have no idea what that means, but we're going to learn together. Apparently, Ted Lasso is a TV show. Listen, if you know anything about me, about this show, you know I don't watch TV shows, I don't watch movies, and I'm maybe the most boring person ever, as my business partner calls me. So I'm excited to be educated a little bit on leadership and Ted Lasso all at the same time with my amazing guests who are here with me, Nick and Marnie. First and foremost, welcome to the show, guys. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So you guys made fun of me a little bit for not watching the show. Before we dive into your business, your book, your history, all that fun stuff, what can you explain in your own words? What is Ted Lasso? What are we really talking about here today?
Yeah, so Ted Lasso was an American football coach who went to the UK where he freely admitted there were two entire internets full of things he didn't know about soccer to coach a UK soccer team. He is doing this because the owner, Rebecca Wilton, is getting divorced. And her ex-husband loves that soccer team. And she is hoping it crashes and burns right around Ted. And so that is why she has hired him. But the antics that ensue is a leadership journey that we all cheer for.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Two internets full. Ted sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah. He is a sidekick, Coach Beard, along the way as his partner and assistant coach who has to teach us and Ted all about soccer and England. So some of the antics around, so if I got fired for putting somebody's cleats in the trunk of a car in England, I would get the boot for putting boots in the boot. Yes. So it's goofy, just like that joke.
Oh man,
it's filled with warm and fuzzies. I think that's the thing that a lot of people kind of embrace, and it doesn't feel fake or fabricated. It's all about positivity, optimism, and I think one thing you learn from watching the show is how important core values are, right? And how to stick with your core values, and I think that's why it's. You ask anybody who's watched it, I watched one or two episodes and I just couldn't stop, right? It's like all of a sudden I was done with the season, and then the next season. It's have not seen it, Brandon. It's, if there's one thing to take away from this call, I think you really got to dive in. It's really a good show.
All right, then let's wrap it up here, and then everybody can go watch an episode.
Yeah, man.
Perfect. Come back and join us.
No, we're not going to do that. But you guys are not just fans of the show, which I think is interesting. You've created a whole book around this and potentially maybe a business coming soon. So let me put this website on the screen while we talk about this a little bit. But your history is very interesting and unique, and we're going to get there. But what you're doing now from this show, you wrote a book, Lead It Like Lasso. Can you just tell me a little bit about what that book is about and how that came from watching the show and also tied to leadership?
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
There's the prop right there, right? I think you got to talk about our backgrounds a little bit first, right? In 2019, we started a company in a market we knew nothing about, but we just went in knowing a little backstory before that. Marnie and I had worked together for a while. We had gone through some acquisitions. We got acquired. And at some point we said, okay, right, if we're going to run a business, this is how we're going to do it. So we went in with some core values. We started a software company in 2019 in a market we did not know. We built a solution. Long story short, we basically built it from scratch, scaled it to multimillion-dollar business, sold it 3.5, 4 years later. And along the way, we had built a framework, an operating system amongst ourselves, right? That turned into a business operating system in terms of how we approach the business. And once we went through this successful acquisition, we kept on getting asked from lots of different people, how did you do it? What was the secret? What was the secret sauce? And we started talking about it, and we said, we actually have a framework for this. It was pretty well defined, but we were trying to find a way to kind of relate that to something that people would pick up and it would make sense to them. And that's where we had the idea of relating it to Ted Lasso, right? Because if you watched the show, and again, Brandon, I know you haven't watched it yet.
I'm just a fly on the wall. Talk to the listeners.
If you look at it from the perspective of a leadership lens, there are so many qualities that Ted goes through in terms of leading his team, his soccer club, that are just critical to any leadership framework. And they happen to align very much to how we approach building a business. And for the most part, we did a lot of the things represented in the show, and there's some of the things we aspired to do. So finding a way to get our message out there was important to us. And the relatability of Ted Lasso, knowing that millions and millions of people have watched it, just seemed like a really unique way to do it. And that's kind of how we tackle this. And to answer your original question, from our perspective, it's a leadership framework that starts with you, right? We believe that, whether you're in the boardroom, the locker room, the dining room, everything starts with you as a leader, and there's certain principles that you should adhere to. And that's how we wrote the book. Start with yourself, right? And from there, these principles apply up the entire chain, right? You could apply it to a team, you could apply it to a business, and that's where we went with it. So
that's really cool. I think what I picked up on most in that answer was when you said, and I quote, millions and millions of people have watched it. How you just subtly insulted me again for being a podcast. Brilliant, Nick. Beautiful. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
That was not what I picked up from that answer, but I did notice it. But I'm excited to dive in here. So whether you've listened to the show or not, if this is your first one, first of all, welcome in. Good to have you here. We are nerds about frameworks for running your business. Harmonious is the architecture that we implement in our companies that we consult with to run your business and grow your business smoother. You have a framework, and I can't wait to nerd out on this a little bit. So you can go as deep or as shallow as you want, but can we pick this apart a little bit and just see like where does someone start with your framework? What is, I think you just said it too, start with yourself, but what does that look like in terms of using your framework to grow your business?
So in the book, we have 4 sections. So we have the rules. Nick and I are all about making up some nonsense rules along the way, and some not so nonsense, like defeat the blank page, right? Like do something, make it happen now. We have a character assessment. So part of the book is, there are lots of leadership assessments out there. For the folks that love Ted Lasso would really want to know which character they were. So we built a leadership assessment around that. And then we have the training, which is like practice, but in the UK, practice is called training. And then we have the game where they actually implement it in their life. But as part of the training, the first thing that they do is work on identifying their own core values. So the subtitle of our book, it's Lead It Like Lasso, a leadership book for life, your life. Because we really think that a lot of the miscommunication, the angst, the cultural misconnect in work happens because the business doesn't know their true core value, and you don't know your true core value. And that misalignment causes, again, issues, be it in, like Nick said, the living room, like when your 4-year-old isn't aligned with your own ideas of what's happening there, to a boardroom or a classroom. So it starts with identifying your core values and then what that would look like, because that's what culture is, right? Is how your core values play out in terms of behaviors and decision making.
I'm a huge fan of that. That's actually exactly where we start when consulting with businesses. And people always give us funny looks. They're like, no, we need operational help.
Yeah, they want to start with the vision and just plan. Yeah.
I'm like, I know what you need. I didn't ask you what you think you need. I'm telling you where we're starting. So, okay. So then building culture, building a team, building your own personal leadership, starting with core values. Love it. We're on the same page there. And I love the assessment too. That's one of the most creative things I think I've ever heard. So kudos to you guys for that. So then where do we go from there? Because as much as I hate to admit it, there is more to building a business than just core values. I know. So what do we do when we have the core values and now we're bringing on people, or just building our culture and our business? Where do you go from there?
Nick, do you want to talk
Yeah,
about the personal operating system, or yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think from our perspective, we jump from core values. The next logical step in our world is vision, right? Goal setting, setting SMART goals. But again, the reason you touched on this a little bit a second ago, Brandon, is, we find a lot of companies that don't start out with core values. They just start out with vision and, their communication strategies and all the such from there. But having those core values set from the outset influences what your vision is going to look like. It influences your decisions down the line. It influences how you engage with the community. So I think from the standpoint of the framework of the book, right, we talk about setting your core values first, then attacking your vision, identifying your goals, talk a little bit about goals, talk a little bit about, we dive into communication, community networking. So it's not an uncommon framework. I think the big thing that we try to present in our book is, number one, practical examples in real life that we've experienced in the business community. Number two, relating it to concepts that people who may not have been in a leadership position before can understand, and that's where Ted Lasso comes into play. And then the third and final area that I think what makes us a little different from other leadership books out there is we give you hands-on activities. It's not all research-based theory. We give hands-on activities. And I think Marnie was going to go into the personal operating system a little bit, and I think I tried to segue into that. So you want to talk about that, Marnie?
Well, it ties together, kind of the original answer of the core value and culture. After that, we have a template for someone to develop their own personal operating system. That includes their motivators, their demotivators, their personal philosophy and vision, et cetera, and a communication guide. Like, how do you work with me? And it is something that after we would hire folks, the first day on onboarding, whoever the manager would be, like, I would give them my personal operating system. This is what it's like to work with me. And I would have them create one as well. So they really got a good sense of the culture of the company from the way that we wanted to invite the whole person to the party. And really, when we got to know the whole person through team building activities and things like the communication guide, it helped everyone have the same language and really know that we are inviting the whole of you to the company. And this is all of us. If that makes sense.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've seen something similar to that. Very rare to see stuff like that, but so powerful when you have a company who knows how to communicate with each other. And that's kind of the whole point with the Harmonious architecture, is companies are set up to be in different disciplines or different silos. So by nature, you separate sales from marketing, from HR, and all these other things. What I think a lot of people don't realize, and you guys have solved, is by doing that, you're promoting separating individuals, and you're not teaching them to collaborate and come together as one for the greater good. It's almost like an inner company competition, which is never good for growth and sustainability of a company.
And it's so easy to go down. And I've spent my entire career almost, Brandon, working for, I made a habit of going into small startup boutique companies, and we grew, and we ultimately have been successful. I've gone through the process where I've gone in employee 1 through 10, and we've gone to some sort of successful exit throughout that process, not always as the owner, but as very early on. And in almost every scenario, we would end up starting with the siloed approach. And we always failed. And we always knew we were going to fail, right? But it's so easy to do as an organization as you start to grow, where those silos start to get built. So I'm just reinforcing the point that you made, right? The whole idea of breaking down those silos, that the whole key to that entire process is communication. That's something that we really try to address significantly in this book.
Yeah, that's communication is crucial. Almost everything with building a team. So I do, before we wrap up here, I do want to just touch on your success. You guys built and sold a multi-million-dollar company. Not everybody does that. As a matter of fact, almost nobody does that, which is crazy. I actually heard a stat. And before I say the stat, I want to say like 52% of all stats are made up. So just take this with a grain of salt. But I did hear a stat that was something like 85% of companies do not sell. They close or die with the owner. So you and I are part of a very small crew that have actually exited a business. Where did this book show up in that business? Were you looking back on your success and that's where the book came from? Or how much of this was like consciously in place as you were scaling and exiting that business?
So through both of our careers, we have really coincidentally used this framework along the way, not recognizing there were parallel paths really until we ended up working together. And so I think somebody asked us what was so surprising about scaling a company so quickly and selling. And Nick and I both said what was surprising is it wasn't all that surprising, because we knew he is a, well, when you watch the show, Diamond Dog is like somebody you trust to hold you accountable, right? And so we knew each other's core values, and we were able to create the vision and strategy to make it happen. So when you are really clear about your vision and strategy and put the tactics in place to make it happen, it is not all that surprising when it is successful. And so I think the framework we didn't have the book in mind because Ted Lasso hadn't even been out when we started the show. But I think I'll say we started with the fact that we've kind of lived this a couple of times. And it was a natural fit with the relatability of Ted. Is that fair, Nick? Did you want to completely say the opposite, which is okay?
No, I think you're dead on. I think the other thing that I think that was, and we try to talk about this in the book and the framework itself. Obviously there was some degree of luck, and I think you would probably, agree with that, Brandon. In your experiences, but it's obviously a lot of hard work. But the one thing that really comes to mind, if you can pinpoint one thing, which is really hard to do, was our whole mindset of go-giving and providing value to others. And we try to represent that in the book, and with just calling on our experiences. That was critical to the success. And thankfully for us, that was one of our core values that really made us tick and happy, which at the end of the day, that's what core values are. You're happiest when you're kind of adhering to your own core values. And that was something that was really important to us.
Yeah, and it's so true. And for us, I have to give credit to my business partner. He says, so for us, each of the letters in Harmonious is, it's an acronym. It stands for a different discipline. N is navigation. That's where we start with everybody. It's mission, vision, core values being first. When you get those three things right, when you get navigation right, it's very hard to get the rest of the business wrong. On the flip side, if you get navigation wrong, it's almost impossible to get the rest right. And it's exactly what you guys are saying, with starting with core values, having a clear vision for the future. Everything else kind of falls into place. The tactics reveal themselves. The strategy tends to reveal itself. And then you could just take action and go. If there's that alignment to start with, really, really easy to move forward and grow a business. So on that note, is it fair to say that if someone watching or listening buys your book and they implement it, they'll grow a multi-million-dollar business and successfully sell it? Can I say that?
I'm just thinking maybe we'll raise the price of a book just a little bit if that was 100% true. Right?
Well, how about this? Go buy the book and prove us wrong.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good way to start. But I think, based on what you guys have said about it, first of all, I'm excited to geek out on it and go grab me a copy. And you should too. So go try to prove this concept wrong. If you start with a solid business structure, mission, vision, core values, See what happens. Prove us wrong. Prove both of us wrong. We would love to see how you get that wrong, because you won't. You just won't. And I'm excited to see where you guys go with this. But I know we have the book. I'll put it back on the screen. And for those of you listening, I'll put it in the show notes as well. LeadItLikeLasso.com. Is there anywhere else you guys want us to go? Follow your journey on social media. Where can we keep up with this book and this
You
journey?
can keep up with us everywhere. We're on all the places. You can buy the book at Amazon, for the record, and in many Barnes and Nobles. But yeah, we're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn for sure.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on. This has been a
Thanks
fun
for having
episode. Quite the party, as I kind of hinted at in the beginning. I had fun. I hope you guys had fun too. And I hope
Absolutely,
you had
yes.
fun. Good to have you here.
Absolutely.
I hope you had fun listening, watching, wherever you are. Go drop it in the comments. What's your takeaway? And before you do that, though, go to leaditlikelasso.com. Go grab a copy of the book and make sure you implement this in your business. Use this framework to grow your business. I'm 100% on board. I support it. I love it. I can't wait to hopefully have you guys back in the future and hear about the number of lives and businesses you've impacted, and also a secret software project you may have coming up too. We'll get some insider scoop on that as well. So thank you again for being here. So fantastic to have you. And thank you for watching Harmonious at Lunch. We'll see you on the next episode.